Welcome to Housing for Huntsvillians, the podcast, a podcast about one couple's quest to eliminate homelessness in Huntsville by August 2026.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Housing for Huntsvillians. Today, because the lovely ice that has been plaguing the entire city for the last week kind of messed up our shooting schedule, today we're actually going to go through and just read comments that have kind of piled up on some of our YouTube content and respond to them.
You comment, we listen.
Heck yes. So, I guess, ready to begin?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So the first one comes from our recent short, Why Americans Are Avoiding Building Homes, The Homeless Crisis. It's a short for the parent video. Jordan Neely died for a want of conservatorship. The comment from Texan96 is, but somebody has to pay for that shit. You can't just build something out of nothing.
First of all, I want to say, Texas 96, you're absolutely right. You could not be more correct. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to build something out of nothing. And if by that shit you mean homes, also true. Absolutely correct. The thing about homes is there is a class of person who is dedicated to building homes. They're called developers, and they make money by selling those homes to other people or renting them out. And so that somebody exists, thankfully, and their name is housing developers. Next question. Next comment.
All right. The next one comes from the short, The Broken Section 8 Voucher System, Leaving Many in Desperate Housing Struggles. It's a short for the parent video, Zach Anderson on Section 8 expansion. And the comment from Bama Queen 2086, sorry, I'm blind. How are you going to find housing in Huntsville, Alabama for 600 plus homeless people?
Bama Queen 2086, not to be confused with Bama Queen 2085 or Bama Queen 2087. Bama Queen 2086, I want you to know. Okay, so if we were talking about food, for example, and we were like, we've got people in Huntsville who don't have enough food to sustain life. Nobody would ask, where are we going to find food for 600 plus hungry people? We understand that food is a thing that is produced by people who produce food, farmers, food manufacturers, and sold to people, and that some people can't afford market rate food. And so we have soup kitchens and other providers to make up the difference between what people can afford and what they need. Housing is the same. We don't find housing. We have to build it. So the two problems are housing is too expensive, generally speaking, in Huntsville. It's increased in price 100% in the past couple of years. So that's the first problem. And then the second problem is wages have not increased 100% for the average Huntsvillian. And for a lot of Huntsvillians, wages haven't increased at all in the past 5 years. So we need two things. We need to build more housing total to bring the average cost of housing down. And then we need to especially ensure that we're building housing that is affordable to middle and lower income people. Because again, going back to the question of who's going to pay for the housing, well, the consumer, who's going to build it? The developer. What housing is the developer going to build? Well, first and foremost, they're going to build the most expensive housing because that's the most profitable for them. So we need to unleash a ton of market rate housing, bring average costs down, and then give the people who can't afford housing still, even under lower average housing costs, cash assistance to make up the difference. So this isn't a question of finding. It's not like we can look around, found a home. That's not how it works. You have to build it.
And I think that relates also to another comment from Bama Queen. We need housing for homeless who have little or no money, in response to the episode, There's a Better Way to Provide Affordable Housing in District 5. I think it comes back to you can't really provide that economically until the the cost of housing drops, and to make the cost of housing drop, you have to build more units to actually catch up with demand, which we're on track to eventually hit, but not there at the moment by any stretch.
I think it's two problems as well. So it is expensive to build homes of any kind, but there are homes that it's naturally less expensive to build. So
we won't let any of them be built.
Right. So for example, all else equal, a tiny home is less expensive to build than a McMansion. Shockaroony. Guess what's illegal to build in most of Huntsville is a tiny home. So this is what Community of Hope has had to deal with, where they're having to build out in the county because there's literally no place in Huntsville, Alabama, where, the jobs and the services and the shopping and the things that people need are, where it's legal to build tiny homes. So when you complain about, well, why is it only luxury apartments that are going up in Huntsville? Because it's not legal for, again, the people who build homes, developers, to build the homes that are affordable to build. So if you're wanting to look at who's at fault for why no one can afford housing in Huntsville, look at our zoning ordinance that legally prohibits the kinds of homes that are naturally cheaper.
Yeah, it's not great. And what you're saying about tiny homes, I'm actually going to skip ahead to the one comment from Instagram. In response to, we posted for the same episode, there's a better way to provide affordable housing in District 5. From a promotional short reel that we put on Instagram. Brenna writes, tiny houses, I really think a tiny house community would be a step in the right direction. And yeah, it would be. The problem is you can't build them in most of Huntsville because of our zoning ordinance.
Right. And not only can you not build tiny homes, you can't even just build smaller homes. So we have a minimum lot size in Huntsville, Alabama, which says no home can be built on a lot. I don't remember what exactly it is, but it's pretty big. And that also artificially increases the cost of homes. It means we can build fewer homes on the same amount of land, which, again, causes supply to be lower and therefore prices to be higher since demand is rising. So yeah, I mean, if you're into tiny homes, I'm into tiny homes. I'm into a plethora of solutions to this problem. Definitely check out Community of Hope. They're building tiny homes in the county. But at the end of the day, tiny homes in the county is not going to solve climate change. It's not going to ameliorate the public health costs of long commutes. It's not going to be as economically efficient. It's not great. What we need are different housing options within the city limits.
And also, yeah, that's one of the issues with them having to build it up in the county is like a lot of these people don't have reliable transportation. So by being out in the county, that's also disconnecting it from any semblance of public transit that could be used by the people that are going to end up living there.
Our minimum lot size requirements also basically prohibit mass transit because you need a housing density of, I believe, 12 to 15 units per acre to make transit work, to make it efficient. And you can't get 12 to 15 units per acre with the lot size requirements we have in place. Yeah, and so we're making affordability illegal. We're making transit illegal. We're making short commutes illegal. We're making walkability illegal. All for what? What's the benefit?
Yeah. Next one?
Yeah.
All right. A comment from the impact of clearing homeless encampments, strained relations, escalating violence. It's a short for the video, Mike Tanner on 5 policies that actually reduce homelessness. I don't know how to read this. AMBKBERO2 writes, why is it the responsibility of society to funnel endless dollars into a system that has never worked?
Listen, AMBK, I don't know what system you're talking about exactly.
I was actually kind of wondering. I feel like I'm lacking context because there's a couple of different directions you could go based on what we were talking about.
Unfortunately, in the year of our Lord 2024 in the United States of America, you're going to have to be more specific. We have many systems that do not and have never worked. I would say, I guess this is dealer's choice then. I want to talk about the system that says we're going to subsidize housing while keeping it artificially expensive. How could that have ever worked? It doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, let's say best case scenario, what you have is a system like San Francisco, which I know I'm supposed to stop talking about San Francisco because it makes Huntsvillians upset apparently, but it's like, I don't know, maybe we should learn from the rest of the world. I'm feeling feisty. But no, like, let's say you have very expensive housing that's market rate that only upper half income residents can afford, which is basically what we have in Huntsville. And then you subsidize housing for people making, like, let's say, below 30% of area median income. Well, it costs a lot of money to subsidize housing for everyone who makes below 30% of area median income. So that's the first problem, is like, that's a huge part of your city budget if you're actually going to do that. Or it's a lot of money coming from housing and urban development, which I don't think we've ever gotten enough money from them that would have covered that bill. No, we haven't. That's never happened, and it will never happen. And so a small percentage of people actually get subsidies who qualify for those subsidies. And then what happens to everybody in the middle? They can't afford housing, but they don't qualify for subsidies. So that's what we talk about when we talk about missing middle. Like, it's not that we haven't built housing or we can't build housing that could be affordable to those people. It's that we have a system set up where everything's artificially expensive, and then we're subsidizing the lowest, and then everyone in the middle just gets priced out, and the people who don't get subsidies also get priced out. So this is not just it's not a broken system, because broken implies that it had a goal and it's not achieving that goal. This is a system that was designed to benefit the people at the top and to pretend like it's doing something for the people at the bottom by actually just helping a small percentage of people at the bottom. It's a system designed to fail society. And so that's the system I think we need to rethink when we talk about housing and homelessness is, and I say this all the time, and I don't know, somebody do something when I go through an entire episode and don't say this, but housing cannot be broadly affordable and the primary vehicle for personal savings at the same time. So if housing is going to be broadly affordable, which it probably should be since everyone needs it, then we should probably stop making it everyone's primary savings vehicle. And the other reason we should stop making it everyone's primary savings vehicle is it's not even benefiting the people who, quote unquote, benefit from this system. Like, we have a huge problem right now where most of the homes that are big enough for young families with children are filled with boomers who can't afford to leave because they have all this housing wealth in these huge houses. But if they move, they still have to pay for shelter. So because the housing prices have risen, which is where all their monies come from, anywhere that they will want to live is also expensive. So they have to live in either bumfuck Egypt, or all the money that they've accrued in housing wealth is just going to go to the next place that they live. Like, okay, so you've accrued $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in housing wealth. But if you sell your house and you buy an apartment or you rent an apartment, it's going to be a high monthly payment, and that's going to eat through all of your equity really quickly. So the problem with using housing as a savings vehicle is until you die, you need a place to live. So it doesn't even benefit you.
That works.
Anyway.
Yeah. Next one?
Sure.
All right. From the episode, Homelessness in Huntsville? No, it's not mental health. Moon Ninja 4811 writes 2 comments. First one, yes, it is. Second, many are homeless because they stole from their families who took them in.
Moon Ninja, you're partially right.
That doesn't mean it applies to everyone.
Yeah, first of all, most people who are homeless are not severely mentally ill. There are higher rates of mental illness among people who are experiencing homelessness, but it's still not a majority. And you know what? Mental illness is pretty common in the general population as well. So, and homelessness creates mental illness as much as mental illness creates homelessness. So mental illness can be a risk factor for homelessness. All else equal, two people, if you look at two people and one has severe mental illness and the other doesn't, then all else equal, yes, the person suffering from severe mental illness is going to be more likely to experience homelessness because that's an impediment to success in a competitive environment. And that's where we live, is a competitive environment. But why is there a lot of competition for housing? Because a lot of people want it and there isn't enough of it to go around. So to look at mental illness and say that's why we have homelessness is insane. The reason we have homelessness is because we have more people who want housing in an area than we have housing for them. It's the competition, not the impediment, that is the reason we have homelessness. And so, and then what was the other part of the comment?
Comment 2 was, many are homeless because they stole from their families who took them in.
This is an empirical question. Moon Ninja. I don't know what percentage of people who are homeless stole from their families, but what I will say is I read a study on homelessness that showed that a lot of people who are homeless are part-time homeless. So they stay with family, let's say a few nights a week or a few nights a month. But they can't move in with their families because their families live in apartments where their landlords will evict them if they have more people living in the unit than is allowed on the lease. Which makes sense. As a landlord, why would I want more people in the unit? That's more wear and tear on the unit. That's less parking. It's more hustle and bustle. It's more noise. Like, there's no benefit to a landlord to allowing more people in the unit. And especially in cases where landlords are not charging market rate rents, they're looking for any excuse to get the tenants out so they can replace them with new tenants they're going to have to pay current market rates. So again, we get back to, why is there an incentive for landlords to evict people? Why are people having to live in fear of eviction? Because there are more people who want apartments than there are apartments to house them. If we lived in a reality in which landlords were competing for tenants, we would see a lot less homelessness for a lot of reasons, but including the fact that these families would be able to let their family members live with them without having to fear eviction. It's also true that if your family's having to take a risk, either because they're risking eviction or maybe they just don't have a lot of room or they don't have a lot of money or, to feed you or whatever it is, then yeah, you're going to have to be a very model roommate, to get your family to take that risk. And people who are experiencing homelessness otherwise, or who are on the edge economically, are not always perfect roommates, right? And so,
like, the few times that I've never experienced homelessness, but like financially, I've gotten very close to crashing and burning to the point where that would have been a reality shortly after. And like, you are like, the level of stress you're under is insane. But like, also that's the thing, is like, because of I would imagine to some degree, the missing middle that you're talking about, people that you would not expect to experience homelessness are way closer to experiencing homelessness than you would think.
Including yourself. And this is what I think is so awful about our culture, is that we have a tendency to blame victims, because grappling with the reality that whether it's rape or homelessness or assault or domestic violence or whatever it is, we always think, what was she wearing? What was she doing? Why didn't she leave? Like, why are they stealing from their families? Like, whatever it is, we're always looking for what the person who's experiencing the terrible thing did wrong. Because if we recognized that luck plays a huge, huge role in outcomes, that means it could be us at any time. And that's a terrifying thing to deal with. And so we want to look and say what they did wrong, but the reality is it could be any of us at any time. And I mean, we had on Rika Shipley, right? A couple weeks ago. Or was it last week? I think it was last week.
I believe that was, no, but we've had one episode since then.
Okay, sorry. 2 weeks ago, Rika Shipley was on the pod, and
Sorry, time has lost all meaning, being like snowed in all week, or iced in, I guess, in our case.
and you look at her, and you just got married, she's got kids, she's living that like middle class life, and very put together, very well spoken. And she's experienced homelessness. You know, you can't look at somebody and be like, oh, yeah, they're the kind of person who's homeless or has been homeless. It could be all of us. We are all a very small number of misfortunes away from being in that situation. And that's why, one, we need to recognize that this is a structural problem, not a problem of individual failures. It's not, oh, these people are thieves and so fuck them. No, like, this is a problem where we have more people who need homes than homes for them, and some of them are not getting what they need because there's not enough to go around.
And honestly, when I was like getting really, really close on the financial side, that's one thing that I noticed is like I've been taking for granted that I just got lucky and things just happened to work out for me for a very extended period. But like you have one or two things go wrong in the correct order, and you can find yourself on the other side of that very quickly.
And this is what I think is really rough about living in America, is that the experience of a top half person is so different from the experience of a bottom half person. Obviously, I'm speaking in generalities, but that it's difficult to really conceive of. And one thing that I think it's really difficult to conceive of for top half people is the precarity of bottom half life. How everything that goes wrong creates a greater likelihood for more things to go wrong.
Yeah.
One missed payment, right? On, let's say, you don't pay your internet bill. Well, maybe you miss an email from your boss and then you get fired, and, you get a ticket and you don't show up for court, and then you go to jail, and then you get fired, and then you lose your benefits. And it's a slippery slope where there's no real net. And so you can fall so far so quickly. And the other thing that I think is really difficult to understand is that stress and scarcity makes your brain operate more poorly.
Oh, yeah.
So when you need to make the best decisions, you're least able to make even good decisions.
Yeah.
So it's easy to look and be like, oh, well, they made a bunch of bad decisions. And it's like, well, if you were in those same circumstances, you would also be making worse decisions.
Yeah, it's easy to judge from the outside, but you have to really put yourself into their perspective.
And it's like, when you're living in an overcrowded situation because your brother or uncle is experiencing homelessness, so you want to give them a place to sleep, but they're, playing stuff on their phone in the middle of the night, and then you're not sleeping well, and then you're making bad decisions. It all builds on itself in a way that's really hard to imagine if you've never experienced it.
Yeah. Well put.
Thank you.
And let's see, off of the same episode, homelessness in Huntsville, no, it's not mental health. Wes asks, where do I sign up for handouts?
That's a good question, actually. I need to put together, I don't know if this is something we need to do, and maybe it exists. I would actually go to probably Love Huntsville, or First Stop would be, there's also NATCH, the North Alabama Homelessness Coalition, or Coalition for Homelessness. These are all service providers. We're not in this business of direct service provision. So I think there are a lot of people who are working on making homelessness less shitty, and that's wonderful, and they need to keep doing that. That's important work. We're in the business of ending homelessness, so we're not subject matter experts on where to get direct services.
All right, and to end it all, I may want to. No, I'm not going to say that. That would be mean. From the short, the harsh reality of homelessness, why locking people up is not the solution. It's a short for Mike Tanner on 5 policies that actually reduce homelessness. Dank VRO 42007 or no 427 427. Anyway, writes, use the $50 million they're using for many houses and public shower and restrooms with tribe people to maintain, use them all money and build a decent sized city in the middle of the desert with solar panels, a community shower, a restroom, and a little town that is managed by authorities, and have all homeless live there for free, but only get certain amount of power use and certain amount of water to use if they want to live.
He's half done.
It is free, but they all have certain jobs they have to do in their little community and have authorities there at all times, security, and keep them in check. All completely crazy need in the mental institution, and all the old or injured have a separate section, but same idea, just with more people there to monitor and help them more for the people who need the help. All the homes and apartments being built for homelessness need to be giving to people have kids or older people who are just down on their luck. They should be first fixed for the new apartments for people who are homeless, not junkies who are going to trash the brand new apartments. I'd rather see a single mother with kids in one of those apartments rather than one guy that still looks like he is on drugs.
Okay, Dank Bro. So it sounds like what you want is a community that's environmentally sustainable, that uses its resources effectively, that has abundant housing for everyone who needs it, including families with small children, who takes care of their mentally ill people with institutions when necessary and appropriate, and has effective and fair law enforcement for public safety. Same. That's what I want too. I think it's not probably very environmentally sustainable to build this from scratch in the middle of the desert. I think, I don't know, modest proposal, let's build it where the cities already are.
It seems like having the security kind of makes it more like a prison, so I wouldn't go that route. That seems a little...
People should be free to leave, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the institutions, but the city.
That mainly sounds like you're creating a jail for them, but environmentally sustainable community,
with abundant affordable housing.
Yeah,
we love it.
Yeah,
we're into it. We agree.
All in.
There's barely any daylight between Dank Vro's vision and ours, but ours is better spelled, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks for commenting, Dank.
Very much appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else that commented. I think that's all we have. Mostly it was on YouTube. Thank you again to Brenna Bat for participating on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for commenting, everyone. Please, if you're listening, offer us your thoughts. We're reading these comments, and yeah, I mean, I would love to know, like, what are your questions? What are we not covering that you're interested in? What are your objections? What are your where does what we're proposing and what you would like to see diverge? What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? We're not just talking to, we don't want to be just talking to ourselves.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's enough support, we'd even do something like a Q&A live stream at some point.
Yeah, I think that'd be super fun.
We're about to be outfitted for it, and that would be be nice interacting with you guys in real time.
And who do you want us to talk to? What guests would you like us to have on? Warm intros, very much appreciated.
Yeah. Keep sending the feedback. We do appreciate it, even if we don't immediately respond. And yeah, we'll be back next week, and hope you guys are staying warm and staying safe.
Keep it housing.
Thank you for tuning in to Housing for Huntsvillians. This podcast is a project of Huntsville New Liberals. Sign up for our newsletter and RSVP to our monthly happy hour at huntsvillenewliberals.com.